Indonesian coffee is not only Sumatra. That was our challenge there when we opened. Indonesian coffee, Sumatra? No.
That's what they know the most, right?
Yeah, that's what they know the most. It's like, hey, we're from Indonesia. Oh, you're from Bali. So Indonesia is part of Bali? No, the other way around. Bali is part of Indonesia.
Misconception.
So the only gateway to enter into the U.S. market is enter to the gate of where we know customers as, which is creatures of habit. So we enter through their familiarity, which is we enter through their lattes, we enter through their Americanos, we enter through their cortados, and all of those coffee types that they have every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Asia Forward Podcast, where we explore forward-thinking ideas in U.S. and Southeast Asia business. My name is Ei Thant Sin, and I will be your host today. As you can see, we're not in our usual studio today, but we're in D.C. Coffee here right in the downtown Washington, D.C., a few blocks away from the White House. In the United States, 2/3 of adult Americans drink coffee daily, which means 463 million cups of coffees are consumed in just one day. So, in the land of chain coffee shops like Starbucks and Dunkin', how does one Indonesian coffee shop becomes a beloved spot for the Washingtonians? And how does the U.S. market make room for Indonesian coffee? And in the broader sense of what it means for U.S. and Indonesian relations, and also for the broader Southeast Asian community. To spill the beans on these topics, I am joined by Vivit Kavi. She is the founder of D.C. Coffee Shop. Thanks for joining our podcast, Vivit.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming and bringing the whole crew here. Yay, thank you.
So nice to be here at the actual coffee shop.
Yeah.
And Vivit and I actually share a bit of a similar career background.
Yeah.
We both work at Voice of America.
Yes.
You at Indonesian Service, and me, I was at Burmese Service. Yep. At different times.
Yes.
And you were also a TV personality, hosting shows, producing shows, and also media person for like 20 years. Yeah. And now you
my
own
previous life.
Yeah, now you own and run
coffee.
a successful coffee shop in the heart of DC. What inspired you to make this career change into becoming the owner of a coffee shop?
Okay, well, once again, thank you for having me, and thank you for your willingness to dig deep into coffee, especially for Indonesian coffee. And that fact, that was big. 400, how many?
463 million cups within just one day.
Mind-blowing. Okay. All right. I didn't know that because I'm like really focused on what we do on a daily basis. But why I started this in the beginning is because I wanted to pivot from being a frequent traveler because before 2019, before we opened our doors to the public, in September of 2019, I was traveling. I was doing a food and travel show. I was far from my daughters. I have 2 girls now. They're both in college. One is graduating. But my first intention was to bring something from my hometown to introduce to the world. Why do I say the world? It's because we're in Washington, D.C. I mean, look at Massachusetts Avenue. That's like an embassy row. Everyone from different countries are here. So I thought, you know what, if I open in Washington, D.C., that I could introduce something of Indonesia to the world, and I'm in the perfect melting pot, which is here. I didn't think of coffee because I'm a secret spill. I'm a tea drinker at the beginning, just like you, right? Right? Yeah. So I didn't think of coffee. I thought of herbs, food. Oh no, I don't cook as much. But long story short, my husband is an avid coffee drinker. So we thought, you know what? Let's make coffee as a means for us to communicate our intention. And then again, going back to my personal reason is so that I can stop traveling and just be more with my girls because they were going to hop into high school in 2019. And it wasn't unintentional, but when we opened our doors, September 3rd, 2019 was our first day my daughters went into high school. So I think everything just fell into place. And that's where the challenge kicked in of opening this coffee shop in the heart of DC, I guess. We're very close, to all the all the tourist destinations
Right.
here.
You're like 8 minutes walk from the White House, which is the center of U.S. executive power.
Yeah.
And also you're at the corner of K Street and McPherson Square. So what are the perks and also the challenges that comes with being in the heart of D.C.?
Okay. The perks are, of course, again, you get exposed to all walks of life, background, people coming from different cultures. And that is why I want to insert a little bit when I hire people, I want to make sure that they have a people skills, people person, and a high tolerance and empathy level, because they'll be facing with people coming in with strollers, can't speak English fluently. So they really have to have that empathy to be able to help. That was one of the challenges, was finding the right people who has people skills. The other challenges is, I'm going to go there, but the perks first. The perks is, it's like one place and you get exposed to the world. That was the perk. And the challenge is, this place is again, tourist destination, but it was entirely like zombie land for 2 years after COVID.
The pandemic time. You opened a few months before the pandemic hit.
So 6 months. So we opened September 2019. Exactly 6-month anniversary, we had to close our doors.
Oh, no.
So DC, if you weren't a hospital, if you weren't a pharmacy, if you're not a supermarket, you have to close your doors. So I remember March 17th. I still have goosebumps every time I talk about it. So March 17th is when we wore masks, made out of cloth. You remember those times?
Yeah.
And just rubber bands. I came in the door. I opened this door right here, and everything just shattered from top to bottom because we had to close, empty our shelves and everything. But I must say that is a chapter in a textbook that will never exist in this world, because it was something that I had to navigate on my own and wear multiple hats. And that's when I thought, oh, this is the point where you get to feel of being an entrepreneur, having or, obliged to know every single area of the business, and you have to be on the pulse of. If COVID didn't hit, I wouldn't know how to be a plumber. Yeah. If the COVID didn't hit, I wouldn't know how to, wear an HR hat. If COVID didn't hit, I wouldn't know a lot about e-commerce because I couldn't afford any of those specialties. So I had to dive in. COVID actually, again, you were asking about the perks and challenges. COVID was the biggest challenge. It was a roller coaster. So when the world flipped, we flipped with the world, and it was just a flip is like a hand like that, right? It happened so instantly, but the process of going back was like, it was, now it's 2026?
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful we're the last man standing here.
Yeah, you have such a positive attitude. Not just the pandemic in 2020, but there were also mass protests that happened in the summer as well.
That was a challenge of being amongst federal buildings and tourist areas.
Right, there's no foot traffic anymore. Nobody's going to the office anymore. How did you adapt to that?
It was a marketing concept that I found organically, because customers can come to us, we come to them, because it was, do you want to fight or do you want to flight? I was in that position. And I could have just, just filed for bankruptcy, not close. And if people ask what was the reason, hey, COVID, pandemic, we could easily say that.
That's a convenient excuse.
Very convenient. But again, I remember the core of my purpose. I wanted to bring something from home and expose it to the world. And bringing something from home is not the products from home. The product came from the hands of the people of the hardworking farmers from back home in Indonesia. If I stopped, then their efforts of wanting to go across the globe, exist in the U.S., be internationally recognized, it will stop. Sometimes I feel myself like a bridge. So if I stop, the bridge will collapse, everything will collapse with that, Their hope was with us. So when the farmers knew that, wow, our coffee is going to be brought to the U.S., by Dua DC Coffee, they were really excited. But if I stop that, honestly, there was a point I wanted to stop. Not 1 point, 2 point, even until now. Sometimes I feel like, oh, this is too much for me. But when I came back to my purpose and I did a little rewind, which I do in my head almost all the time, it's what keeps me going. So I guess that's why we're still here and we're still going. It's because coffee is a chain where it's not only products, but people are behind it. From growing from the nursery, which my husband and I, we also visit. From the nursery, we have people, watering the nursery. We have people taking care of it, making the sheds, growing the tree and canopies around it. And then after that, to processing it, drying the beans, all of that chain involves people. And when I visited those coffee compounds, the people there, they actually depend, and their livelihood actually depends on the coffee. They establish a clinic, a local school for the farmers' children because we're bringing their coffee here. I'm honestly just a small player in their compound of bringing their coffee abroad, but at least I'm a part where we contribute to the livelihoods of that community, and that's what we're all about. We bring and support the community there, and we make a community here to support Indonesian coffee.
Yeah, so Indonesia has so many islands, and I know that Sumatran coffee is more bold and earthy, and Java is smooth and more fruity, and Sulawesi is probably more complex. So where can you tell us, you touch on it a little bit about the people behind the coffee shop, the farmers that that grows the coffee that we're drinking right now. Can you tell us about the coffee beans that come to Dua DC?
Okay, so the coffee beans that come to Dua DC, we curated ourselves. So almost from the 5 main islands, we have it here. So we bring those here so we could introduce to the world or to our consumers that Indonesian coffee is not only Sumatra. That was our challenge there when we opened. Indonesian coffee, Sumatra? No.
That's what they know the most, right?
Yeah, that's what they're known the most. It's like, hey, we're from Indonesia. Oh, you're from Bali. So Indonesia is part of Bali? No, the other way around. Bali is part of Indonesia.
The misconception.
Yes, the misconception. So we the misperception. So we try to change that, and we try to offer to the world, to our consumers, again, why I said the world is because, we have people from different countries here, is that Indonesian coffee is rich. Indonesian coffee is not only Sumatra. Indonesian coffee can cater to all palates. I can assure you that, and I'm confident of that. And like from West Java, in our pour-over station back here, we serve coffee from West Java, from Flores, from Central Java. Why? Because coffee from there tends to have that fruit-forward aftertaste, tropical fruits, all those undertones. For people who actually was born from tea, like myself or maybe you, I think this is the good gateway to enter into specialty coffee. And then, of course, we have Sumatra, which is more earthy, full-bodied, and that's where we use our espresso for. So why we bring coffee from different islands in Indonesia is because we want to tell the world that, hey, Indonesian can cater to your palate. And of course, with the different processes and innovations in production of coffee and processing of coffee, we can almost say we got you covered, like that. So that's why we're bringing coffee from different islands in Indonesia.
Yeah, I'm drinking the coffee that our barista made here in Dua DC.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about this specialty coffee?
So let me sip it so I know that I'm talking about the right one. Okay.
It's bright.
Yes. This is a rare coffee, actually. It's called excelsa. If you've heard, I'm not going to talk more about it. There's Arabica, there's Robusta, there's Liberica. This is excelsa. And we brought excelsa in here because we wanted to introduce flavors that are not common here. Have you heard of jackfruit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
The soft one, the hard one, I love it.
Yeah. When you know what? Here. When you open this, you can smell like hints of jackfruit in it. It's because of the process, yeah? So
definitely smells so fruity for a coffee bean.
Exactly. So so you can fall in love with specialty coffee from a tea person because of this. So this is from excelsa. This is excelsa from a small village called Cukil in Semarang, Central Java, and it's a rare coffee. Why? Because the harvest is not like Arabica or Robusta. It is a low yield because it is hard to pick.
It's a
relatively tall.
Tree,
yes.
tree. Yeah.
So this is one of the example that for those who love geisha, for those who love the natural platform like anaerobic natural, natural lactic, this could be an option for those who love that that palette of coffee. So this is the excelsa. We call it excelsa Cukil. In all of our beans behind you right there, we don't change the names. Every time I meet with the farmers, at the first time they meet with me, they said, "Oh, you're from the U.S. We can do white label. You could put your name on it." And I said, "No, I'm not doing a white label. Here, my coffee shop is we provide the stage, we provide the audience, the lighting, the sound, but you are the star. So I'm going to bring your name to our shop." Like Frinsa behind you there, a natural lactic, that is actually a name of a family. Like Frida, Sasa, Nisa, that is a name of his 4 children made into Frinsa. And I'm not changing Frinsa to anything else but
beautiful.
that. Behind you, another one, Wanoja. Wanoja means village lady. That is the name of the village she created like 13 plus years ago, and I'm not changing it into anything else. So we are proud to bring these stars, and we're just there to support them and be a stage for them so we could showcase them. And that is why I guess, again, that what fuels me, just, being that platform. And every time I see them, every time I make another order to ship here, seeing their reactions, almost shed into tears is priceless. So that's what keeps me going.
You always put people forward, people first. That's in your value in doing this coffee.
I guess that's like a formula that I think should come naturally, and that is not forced. Just as how we survived through COVID, it was organic marketing that kept us rolling. I mean, when we opened our doors here, we thought that, hey, we're only going to serve, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, but turns out that our customers are now throughout the U.S. in almost all the 50 states. Why? Because we didn't promote. We didn't have any marketing or promotion or advertising costs, let alone, staying alive for the next day, because we experienced like 2 years of loss. So that organic marketing came from the customers who sent our beans to their family and friends across the U.S. and gave a little note, hey, give this, local coffee shop some love, try their,
Support
beans.
Small business during the pandemic.
Exactly. And then they reordered, and they became loyal customers. And long story short, we had that database of e-commerce customers that came from COVID. And we also made a mini version of our shop, the bar behind us. We put it in our truck. We went around to parking lots. We went all the way to Loudoun County. We went to winery, and we served coffee there because it was COVID. Again, because customers can come to us, we come to them. So it's that creative, innovating products that fulfills their need whilst keeping them safe at home, and still being able to fuel this place, because to be honest, we weren't able to pay rent. It was the side business where we brought our mini version of our shop around, the DMV is what supported this place during COVID.
Right. Yeah, a lot of adaptation, and you stay resilient. And this coffee definitely has a significant taste that differs from other, I guess, commercial grade coffee. How does the U.S., average American consumer react to this? And if they have never tried Indonesian coffee or just know Sumatran coffee or one type of coffee, and how do they respond to other Indonesian flavors like pandan?
So the only gateway to enter into the U.S. market is enter to the gate of where we know customers as, which is creatures of habit. Coffee is like a habit. 7 a.m., I got to have my cup of joe. 6:45 a.m., I got to have a coffee in my hand. Of course, we can't, force them into, hey, this is Indonesian coffee, change it to this. We can't do that. So we enter through their familiarity, which is we enter through their lattes, we enter through their Americanos, we enter through their cortados and all of those coffee types that they have every day. How do we enter through that is we change the ingredients to Indonesian beans. So when they try it, they're going to say, hey, my latte is different. Oh, what's in my Americano? And I said, those are Indonesian beans. So that was our path, our gateway to introduce them to Indonesian beans. And then you mentioned pandan, and then aren. Those are very typical Southeast Asian flavors, especially aren. So aren is like it's like palm sugar from the palm tree. It's extracted from the flower sap of the palm tree in West Java, which we direct trade with the farmers itself. But how we introduce them to pandan and aren is through the lattes. I mean, at the cashier, I would ask, hey, is your first time here? Of course, we would welcome them, and they would say, I always have sweet lattes. And I said, you know what? Let me introduce you to another sweetness. What is it? So I'll introduce them to pandan. I always say, hey, pandan is like the advanced vanilla. I got this from a New Yorker, by the way. They always say, pandan is advanced vanilla. Oh, really?
They're very good at describing.
Yeah, no, and I said, what is that? It's it's a vanilla of Southeast Asia. It gives you like a delightful hazelnut vanilla undertone with sweet coconut aftertaste.
Use it in dessert.
Pancakes and cakes and all that, right? Yeah. And then what's another one? They would point into our signature drinks on our menu, and I would say, oh, that's aren. What's aren? I said, my name is Aren. Is it Aren? No, aren. So I would have those fun conversations with them, and I would explain what it is. I would say it has like a molasses, brown sugar, nutty caramel undertone to it, and I said, hey, let's give it a try. So they tried it, they love it, and they keep coming back. And aren latte is now our top seller.
Wow. Thank you, Vivit. And to our viewers, if this type of conversation is your cup of tea, or in our case, coffee, don't forget to click subscribe on our channel. And you have so many amazing small batch specialty coffee beans here. How do you ensure you have a reliable supply chain? That you said it's single source directly from the farmers back in Indonesia. So with the different changing policies, how do you stay up to date and making sure you have a good supply chain of this specialty coffee that people now fall in love with?
How do you ensure is you connect with the source consistently? You take care of your network, you take care of your source, and they'll take care of you. So if I said, hey, I don't have the money to buy your beans, can we set a payment plan? And they would say yes, because we have built trust with them. We take care of each other. So once you take care of each other, when the storm hits, we adapt. They are willing to adapt. We are willing to adapt. So in business, I see that, keeping something or keeping all aspects of the business not only transactional is key.
Do you have any support from the Indonesian government as well?
Well, we do in terms of them purchasing a lot of our beans. Yeah. Every time there's events, when the president came, we served coffee. Of course, he didn't come here. The ministers did, though. But the president, we had to bring our bar. We brought a mini version of our bar again to him, and we served that. And they support in exposing us, and we make gift baskets, holiday hampers, and they give it to the senators, and they give it to their, to Congress and all of their counterparts. So we're happy that they really help us in getting the word out, and from there, it's where the repeat order kicks in, and sometimes right now we're experiencing happier problems where we're like in a part where between supply and demand, because our demand has increased significantly, and our supply is like we're about to have another shipment in. We're good though, but it's that happy problem where we are trying to keep up with the demand. So. Yeah.
How do you balance between neighborhood coffee shop versus becoming, you're not just selling coffee, you're showcasing, becoming ambassadors for your own culture, flavors, heritage. How do you balance between that two, being a boutique coffee shop versus being an Indonesian ambassador in the heart of DC?
I've never seen myself as one. I've never seen you just mentioned it. I've never seen myself as an ambassador. I just try to wow, never thought of that. But it's just keeping yourself relevant, connecting yourself with the community endlessly, and not seeing yourself as something special. Because once you see yourself as something special, you lose that unique element of having people come to your business, not to consume coffee, but to have that experience. And that's what we're trying to offer. It's not coming to, because I feel like the generation now is not coming to a coffee shop to get Wi-Fi and caffeine, but to, feel what other reviewers felt when they visited us, which is the experience. And that's rare. And that's, I guess, how you stay alive, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. In the land of like chain coffee shops, like you could go to a corner and there's Starbucks. You could drink Dunkin'.
Yeah.
You can go to drive-through coffees. So having this specialty coffee in a boutique shop, I guess it's all about the experience.
And again, I would say thanks to COVID, because post-COVID, the elements of having the human touch in your products is the one that kept us alive. We had PPP, not Paycheck Protection Program, but Product People Pair. That's what I shared with my team, is that's a concept or a formula that kept us going. Product People Pair. You could have an amazing product, you could have the most delicious coffee in the world, but if it doesn't pair with the people behind it, you can't go long. Your product will shoot, but it will fade because there will be competitors competing. But if your product comes with a soul, your product comes with love, your product comes with empathy, it's going to go a long, long way. So you earn your spot instead of having it or getting it instantly. I guess that's something that's rare. And I always talk about this with my key communications person. I thought she was here, just somewhere. But is that people, when they scroll, they like seeing the human interactions besides the nice made up photo shoot or models. Why? Because they miss that in the world of AI.
Social connection.
Exactly, people connection. And I always say that whatever comes to heart touches the heart, and you can't go wrong with that.
Indonesia is one of the major producers of coffee, and yet it is still less visible in the U.S. market. Why do you think that is?
Less visible 3 years ago, but not less visible now, because right now our demand is high, and thanks to our amazing, talented world barista champs, world brewers champs, they brought and they helped us scale Indonesian coffee to the world. Now, I've been to specialty coffee expos since I went one in 2018, but I go every year. Just recently in San Diego. The demand is, I've never seen a demand as high as that.
Demand for specifically Indonesian
coffee. They're not ordering in bags of like thousands of kilos. They're ordering in containers.
Oh.
Which is 20 feet.
A lot of coffee.
18,000 K.
Wow.
So there's a lot of coffee because it's rare. And they need it for their blend, for their roasting, for their collection. And because it's not a single effort. Again, this coffee is a chain of commodity. Because it's a collective effort, we really feel it right now. Because right now, especially in the DMV or maybe East Coast, Indonesian coffee is pretty rare, and we're one of those rare coffees. And we've had people coming in, hey, we heard you from this platform, we heard you from this, we heard you from this, every single day. And we thought that people know us already, but no, this is my first time here. It's my first time here. Hi. And I'm like, oh, it is. It always gives me chills and goosebumps. Yeah.
So there is not a shortage of coffee shops or coffee snobs in America and also in Washington, D.C. So with your specialty coffee of Indonesia, you representing a lot more than just the coffee and also yourself. You mentioned that you're always people first. How does Dua DC stand out as a coffee shop in the land full of chain coffee?
because we're the only few that brings single origin Indonesian coffee. I would say that. I think that's the word that gets out. We offer profiles that you rarely find. I'm not going to say you can't find. Of course, you can find other places that you rarely find in the area. And I just have to say that staying true to your roots, being consistent, I think that just speaks for itself. That just kind of finds its way around the specialty coffee until it is finally known to coffee snobs, coffee aficionados. And since they're curious that we have that branding, they come here, they try themselves, they're satisfied, and they tell others. And the others come here, they're satisfied. Sometimes they critique us, and we're very open to critique and feedback. That's how we grow. And but how do we find ourselves is just being consistent in your purpose, not in what you do in the technical part, which that is also always a work in progress, but consistent in your purpose, consistent in your intention. Because when there are bad days, which I do have those, and as a female entrepreneur, there's days when you feel like, you feel like crashing, and then, those once a month cycle comes in. That's just like, I sit down and I just see the faces behind our products and the purpose why I started this. That's what keeps me up the next day and keep doing and going. And I guess that should be like a key to, other businessman, businesswoman, is like being consistent in your purpose. Being consistent is not what you do, is a technical part of it again. But consistent in your purpose, that's what you have to really grasp on and don't lose it. Because once you lose it, everything just goes sideways. Yeah.
I mean, you started now so far about 6 years now. You've went through a pandemic.
It felt like
protests.
yesterday.
Yeah, and so you have went through the ebbs and flows and different changes in terms of Southeast Asian coffee or any different type of coffee. I see some of them shift from barista made coffee to can ready to drink coffee on the shelves. Do you see Dua DC expanding in that direction? What's the plan for it?
Expanding in mass production like cans? Not yet, I think. No, not yet. Not. We're not there yet. We, in like 5 to 10 years from now, we feel confident in terms of expanding our product line, expanding what we offer to the coffee community and beyond. And the confidence also comes, we're all about data as well. Data, facts, research, and all of that. It's more than 50% of Americans drink specialty coffee. So we're confident. And that fact, the data aligns, is parallel with what we see firsthand. Because we're in the front line every single day, we see the increase of demand. So we're very confident in what we do. And in 5 to 10 years now, we see our products expanding, our place having a few more, and then just getting the word out there that, hey, Indonesia is not only Sumatra. It's like, hey, Bali is not the only tourist destination, but we have more than, 5 huge islands to explore. And each one has distinct flavors. And if you don't believe it, come on over and give it a try.
Yeah, since we're building onto it, and since we're Asia Forward, I want to end on a forward-thinking note.
Yeah.
So where do you see the U.S. market having a space for Indonesian coffee in the next 5 to 10 years? And where do you see Dua DC coffee?
I see it as the inch growing. Yeah. So let's say it was only this much Sumatra, and now it's become, a little wider. Like say Sumatra was 2 inch. Now we're like at 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7.
A little bit more into
yes,
it.
And thanks to social media platforms and all those medium for communication that has expanded endlessly, I'm very positive that as long as you have a strong communication platform and a strong willingness to educate and get the word out and not force. Again, you got to enter into their, subtly into their habit of drinking coffee. I see the market for Indonesian coffee in the U.S. not decreasing, but significantly increasing. And of course, we're in the platform of the customer facing, but in the platform of the champions, every year when I go to specialty coffee expos, to World of Coffee, the finals are from Indonesia. Latte art competition was from Indonesia. Roasters are from Indonesia. And the innovations of coffee is all about equipment as well. A lot is coming from Asia. And the processors and how they're experimenting, they're all like a shooting star. I mean, the generation right now, they're experimenting so much that completely aligns with the demand of people wanting more. Give me more specialty coffee. Give me more innovations. So yes, I do see a positive impact of Indonesian coffee in the U.S. market. And it is something we look forward to.
Vivit, thank you for the perfect blend of personal story and also educational perspective on Indonesian coffee, U.S. market, and also trade relations. And to our viewers, try Indonesian coffee and let us know how it compares to the cup of coffee that you're drinking now. Thanks for watching the full episode on YouTube and also listening in on Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more forward-thinking ideas on US and Southeast Asia business. And also you can find us on our social media on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Check out our website at asiaforward.org. My name is Ei Thant Sin, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!